and chopped them all up with scissors and lit matches on them to spoil them up a bit and to really come up with a sort of a different way of getting into a university.
Yeah.
And then we shipped that down to CalArts, which was owned by Walt Disney at the time, who wanted to build an arts school where people from the public could come by and see artists at work. And of course, a lot of people from the East Coast, from New York and different countries around the world were consolidating. This is all in the early 70s when they were starting to open this place. So they had an office in downtown Los Angeles. So there was a big elevator that went up to their central offices where all these people were applying to this new arts place.
Great place, McBean Parkway.
So up in the elevator, we put this crate in there after it had been shipped down by rail, and then all of a sudden the elevator doors open and there's a giant explosion. Smoke pours out of the elevator and this thing slams down on the floor, and then they can pull it out with chains and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then there's directions on the outside of the crate of what to do. There's crowbars that you can use to open it, and then and then we had those little Polaroid camera time where they could take pictures.
Yeah.
So the act was fine, and we use this to have perspective on how one would get into a place like this at the time, but through an artistic act rather than filling out all the descriptions of what you've done and why you're relevant.
Right.
So
Speaking of that, let me interject for 1 second. If there is a dropout on Skype, am I okay to call you back?
Yeah. Skype is flaky in that way. Yeah, call me back.
Okay, but check this out. I started recording a little bit late, but I'm going to document this for posterity because this is truly revolution. Ladies and gentlemen, on the phone, we have Naut Human. He's involved with Asphodel, sound traffic control, and he's going to tell you about his newer things. But, maybe we can move it along because I have a sneaking suspicion we'll be talking in the future and many different things.
There's many episodes. I mean, I'm just trying to wrap up something that takes so long and covers so many years that it's good, your approach, and just coming up with a couple of stories for the day.
Sure.
And later we return to more tales of the crazy. I would like to mention that sound traffic control has now become surround traffic control with image and sound activating it together in different kinds of formations.
Tell us about
with Recombinant Media Labs.
Yeah, Recombinant Media Labs, because I cut him off. This is revolutionary stuff. He's been working this past while. He moved. Had the compound in San Francisco, and also then he branched out into a multimedia center and latched onto the cutting edge of this multimedia, this thing that he'll explain in a minute. But before we get to that, I want to turn people on to Marianne at some time, one of your collaborators.
Oh, yeah, Marianne.
One second, Naut, 1 second. Now, right before I met Naut, he also brought the world, introduced them to Diamanda Galas. I mean, this is a person he was working with Surge. We beta tested the Pro Tools for Avid. We built that stuff from sound designer up, people. We taught various DJs. He'll go into that later. That could be a whole other subject, maybe a panel.
Yeah, there's all kinds of great visitors from back in the day who came through San Francisco. Some for the first time who we did projects with. And Diamanda and Marianne and many other personalities came through that whole area.
Okay, so anyways, let's talk about Marianne for a minute. Explain to them about that and your work with the Surge, maybe, and then we'll just go into what you're doing now, and we can pick, maybe how.
Yeah, we've been spot.
Sorry, Stuart. Call you back. Bye. Go ahead.
No, should you call back?
No. I just had to tell my Cargo UK that I couldn't talk.
Oh, I see. Okay, very good. So. We've had many associates come through and work with the studio as you did, and in all different kinds of contexts, because we weren't just like a rock and roll studio or any other kind of music kind of place. And Marianne Amiche, and God rest her soul, she passed away last October, was one of the people involved in developing works at our studio and other places. She was the purveyor of of a domain that we call structure-born sound.
Yes.
Structure-born sound is where one comes into a space and does things architecturally in relationship to music. In other words, how does music, the architecture of a room, and make a room resonate that you can listen to, et cetera, et cetera. We all set up, guitar amps and do all of these performances. But Marianne herself had some other ideas, and she came from, she was born in the 1930s and 40s, around that time, and then ended up studying with people who your audience might be familiar with. Well, she knew John Cage.
Stockhausen.
Pieces with him. Studied with Karl-Heinz Stockhausen in school, but she ended up at MIT in the basement working on all these new concoctions which related to rarefied sonic phenomena.
Yeah, and she reminds me of a kindred spirit kind of with Delia Derbyshire. Just as a point of reference for our listeners, just so you know, I played the whole of Dreams. Tom hooked me up with that. Even Sonic, who collaborated with Delia and all that, nobody had the whole thing, so it's just me and Tom. So I played the whole thing today and put it on a file for everybody, a YouTube type thing, because... anyways, this show isn't about Delia. This is about Not Human right now, and collaborators and artists, pioneers working. And we are talking to literally an unsung hero of the modern age. Now, if you listen to jungle or you listen to dubstep, all of this crap, we started with Galaxy. We figured out all this shit and made practical applications through asphodel levels and all the different spin-offs, which became, like we had guys from Ninja Tunes come over, and basically the idea was, okay, well, that's one thing you can all sample, but we're going to teach you how to do it yourself. And we branched out, and Naut has been, there are financial considerations because we're using technology. We have to get either corporate or grants or something to do this. But I got to tell you, since I've known Naut, the money isn't really the issue. Whether we're using resources or we have all these machines or these studios, it was never a commercial sort of thing. And the people that he worked with, now they come and go and they're reoccurring. There's various artists, but the emphasis here is doing something. We're severe and we're persevere. Go ahead, Naut.
Yeah, precisely. Now, the persevere and be severe was sort of a slogan that we were doing for so many years.
Yes.
As sort of this mission statement or idea. And even the mobilization and transport events of taking audiences through different environments, these were all done on very little money. Money was never really the objective in the days before the technological equipment developed. We were just doing them in the most primitive of means, but making very active and wild shows and starting to collaborate with other people and organizations to make these things happen. So it was very much a team spirit, or eventually what developed into an orchestral situation as well. And that's of course a story for another time, because you participated in one of those orchestras, et cetera, et cetera.
That was great.
And and that was the ISO Orchestra, and that's a whole other topic. But going back to Marianne and her architecture with sound, one would go into a big chamber or room that she in performing, but sometimes it was a series of rooms. And say you take a building with different places inside, and she would place speakers in very odd locations. If the building had a staircase, for instance, she would put the speakers at the top of the staircase or facing a wall away from the audience, so that the speaker frequencies would bounce off and come back, and then hide things in different areas. So as one walked through the building, you would get a very much different sense of immersion, or the way the frequencies were affecting the structure.
Sure.
Like bass frequencies or different overtones.
And also to interject, there's a thing that she played off with that I use. There's implied reactions, whether it's echoes or the timbre, how the speaker, like King Tubby, relates to it, where you do things that imply, so the informed but submissive listener, all of a sudden your brain is making up even more with this environment. And she was definitely a pioneer.
Oh yeah, no, a psychoacoustic pioneer. In other words, she also experimented way before Raiji Akeda, who does other versions of this, and some artists these days are experimenting with this different tone, where you put out frequencies that hear them in space. They seem to come from no direction, and sometimes the perception of these different tones is that the sounds are emanating from inside your head. The sounds are coming from inside your skull and out, and not because they're coming at you in the space. You hear them resonating between your ears inside your skull. It's an amazing effect, which he was also one of the innovators of.
Oh, yes, but speaking of space, we're nothing if we're not spaced out. Check this out. Are you there? Check this out.
Yes, I'm right here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good.
We're all good. Now check this out. My friends in Australia were working on the SETI project where they decided to turn the radio telescopes and transmit a series of 25,000 files into space every different direction from different points on the planet. Do you know about that project that happened last year? They loaded up a bunch of BJ.
No, there were some threads about that on the web. Yeah.
Okay, well check this out. They loaded up all BGM and dead skeletons.
Oh, good. That's very worth putting that out into to travel through space. I'd rather that they hear that than some of these other national anthems and things that different countries want to put up. But I mean, there's a whole history of things. But with BGM and dead skeletons, that's the perfect choice.
It was so funny. The Dead Mantra video just streaming in every direction of the universe, traveling infinitely. I mean, we made the grade.
Yeah, that's really making the gradient, as it were.
Okay, this is so great. For any of you just tuning in, there's people in the chat room. They're figuring out who Marianne Armature is. They're gonna post Amateur.
Yeah.
Well, pronunciations.
Yeah, I know. When you look at it being spelled, it's AMACHER. So it's amateur for some people. That's an identifying tag.
Yeah, I'm just going to type in really quick while we're talking. I've got Will Carruthers from Spaceman 3 Spiritualized with me. We're working on some stuff tonight. He's with me on my project. And I also have Eddie, who's a cutting-edge DJ here in Berlin, who's also going to be working. He's in this collective that we have. Eddie, you've been listening to this man, Not Human. I'm going to turn the camera on him. I have your picture on the screen. It's just like the news. It's so funny.
Oh, really? I can't even see it, but I trust you.
Yeah, trust me. It's looking good. Yeah. Now, Not, I'm going to have Eddie come a little bit closer. Do you have any questions for Not? 1 second. Come.
I'm kind of overwhelmed now by these informations. I'm not sure.
Speak loud.
I'm kind of overwhelmed by all your stories right now. I'm not sure if there are any questions left actually right now.
There's some interest to take our new enterprise over to Berlin, either in 2011 or 2012 right now, so to experience some of these ideas or fresh formations firsthand will be possible.
Hey, I've got people in the UK media in the chat room right now listening to this. Trust me, this is like the best way we can do this, and we'll definitely do it more often. But one second, what were you going to say, Eddie?
What are you doing currently? Are you still making music or?
It's more the music.
Yeah. What are you working on now?
Well, I never fancied myself as just a musician or a player. The idea was to create an environment which has taken on different identities over the years. And now with Recombinant Media Labs, which is the organization we have now, because I worked with label for a while, Asphodel, and some other the label considered that grew, but that's idea for Recombinant Media Labs, which is called the Vintage Chamber, which is a surround audio and video environment for image and for music, all in different ways. Many people have been to the and other kinds of environments, and this takes this into a live circumstance where live groups can play inside this mobile contraption.
Yeah.
So Recombinant Media Labs is a research and development facility
This is cutting edge.
for the